Okay, so welcome back. This is the second lecture on the chapter of motivation and motion. And in this video lecture, I want to talk about specifically the motivations to eat and some of the theories that are behind the motivation to eat. This is often a fun conversation to have when we're face to face, and we might talk about, so there's a video that I'll probably queue up for you, which is a classic movie about it's about a soccer team, and they crashed in the Alps, and were forced to explore the topic of cannibalism. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say cannibalism. So it's an interesting topic to have a conversation, like how motivated would we be to eat? Would you be willing to eat a human for the purpose of survival? And so it's sometimes a fun place to start when we talk about motivation to eat. Okay, so we're talking about homeostasis, right? Remember, homeostasis is about balance, and it is not. Some of you may actually know more about some of the things that I'm going to talk about in this slide than I. Especially if you are diabetic, or if you know someone that's diabetic, you probably know all of this stuff already. But there's a couple key words that I want to talk about on this slide, specifically glucose, right? So glucose is blood sugar, and it is the sugar that's in your blood that gives you energy. So we're biologically motivated to eat in part to maintain that homeostasis between the energy that we have, the blood sugar, the energy that we have and the energy that we're expending. So that's what's referred to down here below. You have energy homeostasis, bold letters, right? Positive energy balance means you have more calories that you need, which, from going back to chapter 2, your body does not want to waste anything. So if you have more calories than you need, it will attach those calories to your backside, and it will make adipose tissue, otherwise known as fat. So fat is the way that your body stores up extra energy. Your body does not know that food is everywhere in your life, that you can go to the refrigerator, you can go to the grocery store. I often like to ask classes, or think about, like, where can you go where food is not? And probably everywhere you go, somewhere in that building, somewhere in that structure, there is food, not very far away. It may be in the teacher's lounge, but there is food, right? And then negative energy balance is when you don't have enough calories or nourishment to balance out what you're burning. And that's when you lose weight, right? Is when you have a negative balance. Okay, so glucose is your blood sugar. Insulin is the hormone that allows your body to that allows your body to use glucose. So when we take our blood sugar, what we're actually measuring is your body metabolizing the blood sugar that you have. There are two kinds of diabetes. One is referred to as insulin dependent, and one is referred to as insulin resistant. Insulin dependent people do not make insulin, so they are dependent upon ingesting insulin, right? So their body cannot use the sugar that they have, and they are dependent upon taking it intravenously or taking it orally, but they cannot produce their own. Insulin resistant people are people whose bodies produce insulin, but their bodies don't use it. So if you watch a lot of television and you hear the commercial, I think it's Trulicity is the one. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I know the name of that. And they say, helps my body use what's already within it. And that's for insulin resistant people. That's people whose bodies produce insulin, but it's not able to use it, which is different than insulin dependent. Let's see, it says we use about a third of our daily calorie or energy just on functioning, just on breathing. And here's a fun fact. Do you know the organ that uses the most calories? Ding, 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 ding. It's the brain. In fact, the brain uses the most calories of any of our organs. Something called a BMR, which refers to as your resting metabolism, or your resting. It's how much energy that you use simply to live, right? Simply for all of your organs to function. And thinking actually burns calories. So if you ever wonder why you're tired after having thinking, that's why. Okay, again, you have glucose, blood sugar, insulin is the hormone, and then adipose, there is a quiz question there. Adipose is fat tissue, and energy homeostasis, that is the balance between how much you burn and how much you ingest. What is this slide? This slide just has some other interesting or other important words to it. Basically, the eating and weight and metabolism is very complicated. And I'm not even going to get into the weeds here, but I want you to understand that it is a very complicated process. There are lots of things, lots of signals. We have physiological signals, we have psychological signals, we have social signals, and all of those signals are telling us to eat, right? So some of the biological signals, some of the things that are happening internally that affect our appetite. You have something called ghrelin, and I always remember this one, ghrelin, like your stomach growls. So it's referred to as the hunger hormone, and ghrelin is implicated in hunger signals, and it's in the stomach, right? Your body temperature actually goes up and goes down over the course of consuming a meal. As it increases and this is because the way that your body uses energy is it burns it. So your body temperature, my husband often after a big meal, he'll start to break out in a sweat, right? That's the way our body metabolizes. You have some psychological signals that includes things like the time of the day, interestingly enough, that we are hungry at a relatively consistent time of the day. And if you change your eating routine, chances are you will not be hungry anymore. But if your body is accustomed to eating in the morning and eating 6 hours later, guess what? You're going to be hungry in the morning and you're going to be hungry 6 hours later. But here's the thing, is that if you just sit through it, right, and you wait for that to pass, then you'll eventually not be hungry. So if somebody is trying not to eat as much, if they're trying to lose weight, when this hunger signal comes, just wait and it'll eventually pass and you won't be hungry anymore. Now that might be a really long couple hours until it passes. And then certain places, much like when we were talking about drugs, how addiction, and we talked about memory cues, right? So when we're talking about drugs and how environment acts as a cue in the chapter on memory, we were talking about context cues. Those things also affect our appetite because settings cause or physiological responses. I'm in a certain place, I'm smelling certain things, that means food, boom, now all of a sudden I'm hungry, right? So these are all psychological signals that prime us for eating. Okay, then this is an important term right here. This one will show up on a quiz. You can count on it, and that's what we mean by positive incentive value. Now, let's take that word apart. Positive meaning pleasant, incentive meaning it incentivizes us, it's something you want, and positive incentive value of food simply means that food looks good and it tastes good. And when it tastes good, we will want to eat more, right? Classic example, blue Doritos, red Doritos, iceberg lettuce. Both of them are good, but I'm gonna have a harder time stopping eating my red Doritos than I am my iceberg lettuce. Why is that? Because red Doritos has a higher positive incentive value. It's richer, it's saltier, it has more flavors than the iceberg lettuce. So I will eat more because it has more incentive value. And one of the things that's happened in American and modern world, called in modern human times, is it's easier to produce food and our food tastes better. So we eat more. And Americans are actually the fattest people on the planet, right? We have an obesity. I think I talked about this, and I don't remember what class it was, but obesity is a phenomena of rich countries. But within rich countries, it's the poorer people that are more likely to be obese, right? And this is because cheap food tastes good, right? And it's easy to get. Satiation, this is another important word right here, satiation signals. So this word comes from to be satisfied or to saturate, right? So a satiation signal simply means that you're full. And there's a couple different signals going on. Your stomach has stretch receptors, so you're probably sensitive to, like, if you stop eating, how your stomach shrinks, right? And then when you get it, and then when your stomach shrinks and then you have a big meal, how you feel really full. that is your stretch receptors in your stomach that is sensitive to expanding and contracting, because your stomach is effectively a muscle. And then your small intestine actually has a hormone, and I don't know, neurotransmitter. I don't know that I've even seen that I could tell you, I could find the whole word for it, but it's a neurotransmitter that's implicated in the small intestine that also says, hey, stop. Another important word that you can count on showing up on a quiz is sensory specific satiety. And what sensory specific satiety is a fancy way of saying you are tired of the same food. So one of the questions, well, I'll get to that in a little bit later, but one question that shows up on an exam is 2 specific things you can do if you want to quit eating or if you want to eat less. And since this concept, sensory specific satiety, says that we will grow bored of a certain flavor. And so we are saturated of a specific sensory experience. I'm tired of ramen noodles. You go to the cabinet, that's all you have in the ramen noodles. I'm hungry, but I don't want any of that. That is sensory specific satiety. So the fewer choices you have, the less you will eat. That's also referred to as cafeteria effect. This is also why in fancy restaurants, right? Before, gosh, I haven't been to one of these restaurants in ages. Maybe they don't even do it like that anymore. But once upon a time, when you were getting near the end of your main course, before all of these other satiation signals, before your belly told you you're full, they'd bring around the dessert cart, right? And they'd show you all these new senses, these new flavors that you could try. And while you might be full of the flavor of the main course, you might still pick that because that was sensory specific satiety. I'm tired of the same flavor. I want to try something else. This is also why buffets are so popular. Okay, I am at 10 minutes already, so I guess I'm going to stop here and pick it up in the next, pick this up in the next video lecture.